So correct me if I'm wrong. You have a white tea mother.
My mother is Belizean,
Huh?
and I believe she's white. My mother passed, so I'm actually glad you got into this because this is something I wanted to bring up so people can get this out the way because I get shit on TikTok all the time. She's Belizean, and I believe she's white. I know her mother, never met her father. She passed away when I was 13 years old. So my knowledge of her and what she was is very small. We
Okay.
grew up in a black neighborhood. She grew up in a black neighborhood.
Your father is
He's black.
9 times out of 10. Someone like this will say that they are black. Yes.
I think so. Me
Right.
personally.
Right. Right. But with that said, when you have a white tea mother, who are your people? That's what I want you to give me to get deep with that. Come on.
I actually like this question. I think that it's a very complicated thing, right? Because you have the choice, I think, in a way, but also you don't because it depends on what you come out looking like. If you come out, because I have friends that have a black mother and a white father, and I have friends that have a white mother and a black father.
Hmm.
Now, the friends that have a white father, they look more white to me. But at the same time, they have a black mother. And when you have a black mother, it's kind of hard to get around that you're black thing. Same any black parent. If they're on the same accord, they're gonna make sure you know that. So you kind of have the choice depending on what you come out as. But what I'll usually say is most people that have any black parent at all, that black parent tries very hard to drill into them that they are black, unless they're not there. So most of the people that I know choose black because the world is going to view them that way anyway, depending on what they look like, but also how they act, right? So, for instance, I'll be how I am, and I'm light skinned, and somebody will think I'm mixed with white because of the way I talk or whatever the case is or how I, present myself. But then you look at somebody like maybe Chris Brown, for instance.
Hmm.
He might fit the stereotype more of what's black. So even though he actually is mixed, and I'm mixed as well, but I'm saying he might be actually mixed with white, people will never question it
Sure.
because he has a certain look and act about himself. So it's very weird in our culture because you could be Fat Joe, and if you act a certain way, then people might think you're black, even though you're light skinned. And if you're light skinned, but if you talk and walk, they might say, "Oh, he's white." But at the end of the day, I think you have the ability to choose what you are because you're both. If you want to say you're white and that's where you want to go, then that's on you. Even though I think you'll have a harder time on that side.
Yeah.
I think you'll have a way harder time on that side. But let's not get it twisted. You also have a harder time on this side because we know that we grow up and people you light skin or you're mixed and it gets thrown around a lot of times. So you have the right to choose, but once you're mixed, it's it's going to be difficult for you regardless.
A good percentage of the black women that I've dated have mentioned to me that they don't date black men. Now, I've asked a couple of them, how come? And they'll say things like, oh, because they don't fuck with us. What does that mean? Come on.
I think what it means is that they've seen them choose up and choose white tea or Hispanic or whatever the case is, and then also probably the way that they've treated them. Again, it goes back to the schoolyard. A lot of us say, "Oh, high school don't matter, elementary don't matter," but that shit matters. How you grow up does affect you to a certain degree. Now, you can get to an age where you start to understand that you can be more than that, but we talk about conditioning all the time. People are still believing certain things are true that we know for a fact aren't. 60, 70 years ago. So conditioning is real and it's deep. So these people and their experiences that they have shapes their reality and could lead them to feel like, hey, they don't fuck with us. But maybe you just haven't ran into a black man that does. But are they supposed to take the time to do that when there's this guy like you there that is showing them the love and the affection and the care and the protection that they need? Am I supposed to pass up on you because I don't want people side-eyeing me? I'm supposed to be happy at the end of the day. I'm me. So I can't really blame them for that. Again, that's their reality. Their reality might be skewed, and all of our realities are. But you can't necessarily blame them because the people that have came into their life have kind of shown them that's what it is, unfortunately. Now you can continue to go down that route of trying to search for that, but if I run into somebody that's going to make you happy and we're like-minded at the end of the day, we're into the same stuff, we got the same ideologies, and we're going to stand up for each other in our cultures, I'm not passing that up. I'm just not going to pass that up. And I can understand that's why they feel that way. And then you have black men out there that are literally saying white women are better. Like just flat out saying shit like that. So I would be off put too if I turned on the TV or turned on Twitter and I got dudes pulling up the worst example of a black girl and then be like, "This is why I don't date black women." I would be off put too, personally. Not hold on, and not to mention the and I keep going, but not to mention the number that has been done on black men, right? When it comes to incarceration, drugs, alcohol, things that have made us weaker as men that we have to take accountability for, y'all. Keep it 100. We're not exceeding as much as we can financially. We're not exceeding as much as we can when it comes to emotional stability and control. And some people may be able to offer that more. So in her case, that might be what it is, and that's what it is. And we can't really necessarily say she hates herself or her culture for that, because I don't believe that all the way.
100%. When I have dated black women, and I realize that the reason they're not with a black man is because, well, they don't fuck with us. I don't see these women as dating me out of their self hatred. See, it'd be one thing because I've dated black women too who actually say, "Oh, I don't date black men," and I'll be like, "Why? I'm not attracted to darker skin." See, when I meet those kind, I'm like, "Oh yeah, so you're with me for different reasons that I don't want to participate in." Here's another dynamic to this. A lot of times when I have dated black women that were darker skinned, black men themselves would actually kind of question my taste. Like they'll kind of look at me like, "That's your lady?" Like, yeah, like, "Hey, you like all that black?" And then if I date like a lighter skinned black woman, it's kind of like, "Oh damn, you got you a breeder, huh?" So come on, man, talk to me.
I also think that has to do with at times the relationship that we have as black women and black men. It can be very strained, right? Like I think again, there's not a lot of fathers in the home, and this is around. I'm only speaking on black culture, so people in the comments, I'm not speaking. I know other people don't got fathers and whatever. I'm speaking on us. There's not a lot of fathers in the home, and so a lot of us grow up kind of not wanting that masculinity or viewing black men in a certain way already. And then in turn, black men are viewing black women in a certain way because maybe they didn't have a certain relationship with their mother or their aunties or certain black girls, whatever the case is. And so they're also looking at you like, you know what you're about to get into? Because they think that's what that is, because that's their reality of what darker skinned women supposedly have
Let me
provided.
pause. Let me pause.
Yeah.
What is that I'm about to get into? Come on.
I think what they think is probably what they possibly could have seen at home and on TV and in the movies, which is having attitude, all the negative things that you can think about. Now, black people have a hard time, in my opinion, understanding that while that may be wrong, it can also be true. If you grew up around people and they acted a certain way and it was off-putting for you, that might be what you take into the world as your conditioning. We know conditioning is strong. So that's kind of how I feel about that. It don't make it right, and that's where it does become strange to me. Like, well, what do you mean? What is he getting into? Because you don't know her. But at the same time, due to the strained relationship between black men and black women, it's possible that this black woman is giving a different version of herself to you than she is to him. Same thing with black men. He might give Becky a different version than he gives you. That's how I feel about it.
How can I make sense out of dating a darker skinned black woman and like by black men like giving me a look like, "Damn, you sure?" And then if I date a lighter skin, it's like I get props by black men.
I think there's definitely colorism in there and there's self hate in there because any woman can. I mean, every woman's gonna give you problems, right? Like, I mean, from a man's perspective, women have attributes about them that it is what it is, right? Every woman's gonna have a little attitude. Every woman's gonna be a little crazy. Every woman's gonna be a little indecisive. This is what it is. So to say, oh, because she's darker, those attributes are going to be more. or if she's lighter, those attributes are going to be less, is based solely off of the color of their skin. And that's where I think that it becomes wrong and it becomes self-hate. Because like I said, you know, or at least I know, that that's not every black woman out there. And me personally, when I've dated black women, I've dated darker skinned black women. I also think to a certain degree, I'm keeping 100 with y'all, that comes from colorism for me. This might sound crazy, but I think somewhere in my mind, I'm looking at it like, I don't want a kid maybe that comes out shit white as hell. Like, I'm just going to be honest. So I'm trying to balance it out. I'm already light. And I find darker, I like chocolate complexion. Me personally, you know, but I'm lighter. So that's what I'm attracted. And I think it's the vice versa. You'll see light skinned women with darker skinned men. So I think that's kind of how it works. I don't know. I definitely think there's colorism and self hate in it. Because like I said, every woman's crazy to a degree. You know what I mean? Everybody's got their problems. Somebody's not going to have more problems than not just because of the color of their skin. And I've dated different types of women that they all, you know, to a certain degree have some of the same problems. So you can't sit up here and say that because somebody's lighter, they're going to, you know, be better for you and somebody's darker is going to be worse. You got to take that at face value and the person and who they are. Anybody who's not doing that and making those sweeping generalizations has some inner issues that they need to resolve, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So if it's not a personal question, I think you kind of answered it, but let's see where this goes. Do you personally have a preference?
I'm a great person to speak to this because I messed around and I dated, you know, had relationships with black women that were dark skinned, black women that were light skinned, black women that were mixed, Hispanics, and Asians. The white thing for me, I fooled around with some white chicks, of course, but I think when you get to a certain age where you're like, okay, that's not, because when you're a kid, at least for me, it's viewed differently. You don't necessarily see the racism, or you try to look past it. You get a little bit older.
You may not understand it fully. That's what I believe it is.
So
That's what it was for me.
I'm like, that's just not gonna work out. The white thing is not, for me personally, not gonna work out. But I've dated the spectrum of black women, Hispanic women, Asian women, and I don't really have a preference. It's more so of how you treat me, how you communicate with my family. Are you a family person? Are you hardworking? Do you have good morals and values about yourself? Are you like-minded? That's really more so what it's about for me. If you're beautiful, you're beautiful. That's how I look at it.
It wouldn't matter to you if you ended up with an Asian or a black to you it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter, no, honestly, because it would only matter if that person was not, you know, didn't have what I wanted morals and values wise, and also didn't understand or try to understand the culture more. That's where that would be a problem, and I wouldn't deal with somebody like that anyway. That's what matters more to me. It's not the color of your skin, but I'm not necessarily going to date a white woman because, to keep it 100, I just don't even want to go down that route. Our history is just too, what's the word for it? It's just too fucked up if we're going to be honest. And you know the way white people are going to look at you, come home with a black dude. Let's just keep it 100. You know what I mean? And so I haven't really had that experience so much dating other races of women, and also dating black women. I haven't really had that experience as well. You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I am.
Let's talk about that though, what you just said right now. You said, you know how white people feel in general if you bring home a black guy, specifically, black guy, right? It is well known that in Latin American countries, you know, dating a black presenting person is frowned upon. This is something well known now. There's some historical elements have caused this. I know that you're lighter complected, but I'm curious to see what you say with how you feel knowing that in general, non-black people frown upon dating black people. Is this something that black people are aware of?
I've always known that, right? Like, y'all can say whatever y'all want, but my pop would tell me, you know, love who you love, but, you know, dating white tea or other races, you might be subject to some things that you don't want to do. You know, for my pop, he dated my mom, which she was Belizean, and like I said, I think mixed with some other, I have no idea. But again, her upbringing and where she was raised around, he didn't necessarily deal with that type of stuff. But he would always tell me, I would rather you date somebody that has grown up around us or looks like us because of the problems that you can have when you date outside of your race. So as a kid, I've always known that. And then you've seen it. Sometimes you might take a girl on a date that you just messing around with. People treat people different, right? Or they looking at y'all weird in the grocery store or whatever the case is. So you'd be a fool to act like that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Now, in my generation, what I was saying earlier is about people who I've ran into who are, they don't necessarily fit the box of what their culture is. And so we kind of, I feel like, collide on that. And then you meet their families, and the people at least I've ran into, they're maybe already got 2 or 3 black dudes in it. You know, so they already been kind of hit, I don't want to say hit, but their family has already accepted the fact, or whatever the case has gone on before, that's what it is. So I haven't necessarily ran into other people like that I've dated being, their family being racist towards me. But just like I for sure know it because you go outside with a girl or you go somewhere and you get a certain type of treatment because they're a different color than you. So you would be stupid to sit up here and say that other races don't, you know, look at black dudes or dating a black dude as a negative thing.
Okay.
I always try to go for like mixed, more mixed people that are, for, you know, if that's what I'm going to do outside of my race. If not, then I'm going to just stay inside my race. And also what we need to understand as well, if you're a black dude and you're dating outside of your race, some of us stay in shit thinking that, oh, I love her and, you know, love is just going to prevail. And nah, you got to be at a point where, you know, dude saying something racist or dad says something, you got to get out of there because it ain't going to stop. So that shit you have to realize immediately. And you have to be able to say, this doesn't serve me and I'm out of here. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't. We end up having kids by these people, marrying these people, and then it becomes so mixed up that the kid becomes mixed up. So if you can't find somebody that's outside of your race that understands the plight and is going to stand up for you in that way, then I wouldn't do it.
With that said, let me add on to that scenario. I have met plenty, black and brown men who married white women. And it's so common for these men who have married and also had children with white women who their white side of the family from the wife that they married don't want nothing to do with them. They don't want nothing to do with them and the children. And now here's what I am troubled with all the time. So you met this woman and you know that their entire family didn't want you. And now you are literally raising children telling them, oh no, grandma, doesn't like us, etc. Why do we still go that way, even after knowing that them people don't F with us, but we are so determined to still be a part of them? Come on, man.
That, to me, when it comes down to the acceptance of, you want the acceptance so bad of others. And a lot of times in our culture, I think people do want that. They want that acceptance. They want to feel like they were able to beat those odds. It's not worth it. Love is not worth going through racism and prejudice and hell just because of that. In my opinion, I don't believe in that shit. So if that's what you're going through and you're still deciding to do that, I don't want to hear you complaining or crying about it because you signed up for it. You knew what it was. Yeah. I don't know why people continue to go down that path and they try to force it. It becomes a negative experience for everybody involved, right? For the wife, for the husband, for the kids, and then what happens when y'all go wrong? And now maybe you know how the system works. Now your kids over there with them. Now you seeing them every twice a week. Now they talking like Tanner and Tommy, and you know what I mean? They be acting different. So like it just doesn't even make sense to continue down that route if that's what it's going to be. To me personally, like I don't understand why we do try to force that. I think it is because of love, where other cultures are like, they won't put up with the shit. They'll be like, I'm out of here. We're one of the only cultures that really try to force and make it work. And, and that's because, again, when we go back to our conversation of conditioning and being taught to assimilate and act a certain way, and we think that's what we're supposed to do. But nah, you should rock with who rock with you. And if those people are not rocking with you, it's only going to get worse.